So I wanted to talk briefly about this article written on June 24th by this writer at Seeking Alpha. Basically, the headline is the S-1 filing is a ticking time bomb for longs in Nikola. And so the whole gist of this article is that there's 24 million warrants and 55 or 53 million pipe shares that are about to hit the market, which are going to cause massive dilution in the value of Nikola's stock. So his premise is that when these millions of shares hit the market, that the stock price of Nikola is going to drop to $20. Okay, then last week he published a second article on July 8th, renewing his call for the stock to drop to $20. And a lot of the discussion in this article, a lot of the comments at the bottom of the article revolve around two questions. One, when is the dilution going to take place? And number two, will the price really drop to $20 even if it does happen? And if you go through the comments, the basic gist of it, of all the discussion, is nobody knows when the SEC is going to approve the S-1, which is when the dilution will take place, because it's going to unlock a lot of warrant holders and enable them to flood the market with new shares. And two, it will enable some of the pipe shareholders to sell some of their holdings as well. The gist of it is nobody knows when the SEC will approve the S-1, when they'll deem it effective. And number two, even if it does approve it, will the price really drop to $20? So a lot of the discussion revolves around those two questions. And I think people who took positions as soon as they saw this article were, of course, probably premature, in that some of the people who took short positions were then forced to cover as the stock rallied up from $40. So a lot of the discussion in the comments section raised the question, well, when is the dilution event actually going to occur? When does the SEC actually judge that the S-1 that Nikola filed, when is it going to be deemed effective? Because that's the date when the shares could possibly hit the market, causing the stock price to drop. And the consensus in the comments section seems to be nobody knows when the SEC is actually going to deem that the Nikola S-1 is effective. So you have this wild card out there, this sort of unknown variable of when the shares are going to hit the market, causing the stock price to drop, if you believe in that premise. So what I want to do in this video is attempt to try to ballpark when this could occur, because the SEC is not going to file a schedule of when the S-1 is going to be approved, because they don't know, because the S-1 could actually go through several amendments depending on the comments and depending on the responsiveness of Nikola to the SEC. So this is the SEC website, and if you're going to find out that the SEC has deemed the S-1 effective, this is the place you're going to find it. So right here is where we have the Nikola documents that were filed recently, and here is the date of the recent S-1 filing, which was June 15th, 2020. And we also see one amendment to the S-1, this S-1A, and it was submitted on the 1st of July of this year. So what we know for a fact is that the SEC has not deemed the S-1 effective yet, because when they do, we are going to see a filing here from the SEC with the word effect, and the word effect will pertain to the S-1. These are not effect documents pertaining to the S-1, and the reason we know that is if you click on the document, you see here it says S-4, it doesn't say S-1. So what we're waiting for is a third effect document appearing in this window, and when we click on it, we want to see the letters S and 1. That's how we know that the S-1 was deemed effective by the SEC. So now the next question is about how long does it take for other companies to get approved by the SEC. So I did a random sampling of about 24 other companies to see how long it took from the time they filed their S-1 document until the time when the SEC approved their S-1 document. So what I see here is that the average time is about 107 days from the time of filing to the time of SEC approval. And the average number of amendments or S-1A documents filed is about 3. So Nikola filed 1 amendment so far. So what this suggests to me is that they're just at the start of the process. The other finding I found, which is very interesting, is that when they get the final amendment correct, the SEC is actually very quick to approve the S-1 document. So there are certain cases where a company filed the S-1A amendment, and the SEC approved it the same day. You see here they approved it the same day. Here they took 1 day. Here they took 5 days. On average, they seem to take less than a week. This is a weird case where it took 17 days. This one took 20. This one took 12, 14. But most of the cases, the SEC is actually very responsive. So what this tells me is that Nikola filed their S-1A over a week ago, and the SEC has not approved it, which tells me that Nikola will probably have to submit another S-1A. If you want to take a look at Tesla, Tesla filed their S-1 in 2010, June 29th, and it took 151 days for the SEC to approve it or to deem it effective. And they went through 8 amendments until the SEC finally did approve their S-1. Now, what I noticed is that also like these really, it looks like pharmaceutical type companies, biotech type companies tend to take the greatest amount of time. So if you want to take out these sort of outliers, and if you also want to take out these companies where they got approved like in 2 weeks, like there's one company that took like about 15 days, then what you end up with is, yeah, it's still an average of 3 amendments, but the amount of time drops down to about 2 months. So since Nikola, from the time Nikola filed their S-1, about a month has passed. What this suggests to me is that I don't know if the S-1, the final approval by the SEC, is just around the corner, meaning I don't know if it's just around the corner like a week from now. It could take longer than that. One other interesting thing I found was the faster a company iterates through the comment and amendment cycle, the faster they get to approval. So if you look at some of these cases like Sonova Energy, they got approved in 27 days, which is really fast, but they went through 5 amendments in about 1 month. So it's almost like the ball's in the court of the company. The faster the company responds to the SEC comments and then sends out a new S-1A, the faster they can get to approval. Here's another case where a company took 17 days, which is very short, and they went through 3 amendments in less than 1 month. So one thing we can gauge from this is the faster that Nikola responds to the SEC comments, and the faster they crank out these S-1A amendments, the faster they'll get to approval. So Nikola will set the timing, or they will set the pace for how quickly they get to approval. So what I would do is I would go to the SEC filing and just keep hitting the refresh button at the end of the business day and see if there's any new documents in this results panel for Nikola. So we have 1 S-1A so far since they filed the S-1. If we see another one like next week, we'll know that they're working on a pretty fast pace of comment and amendment iteration. And that would suggest that the date of SEC approval or deeming that the S-1 is effective is probably nearer than we might expect. So to me, this is the key towards figuring out when the SEC is going to grant Nikola effective status on their S-1. And a lot of people are trying to front run this. They're trying to just guess when the SEC might deem the S-1 effective, and they're trying to short the stock, or they're trying to buy put options now with strike prices and expiration dates that are really far off into the future, like October. And they're paying sky-high premiums for that, for taking on that risk. And I think the low-risk way to play this is to simply come to this website and search for the effect document. And as soon as you see it, published here, then establish your short position with a put option. At least that's going to be my approach. So I have to give the caveat, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a specialist with the SEC documents. This is just based on my research, poking around on the SEC website. So please do your own research before risking any of your own capital. Take this with a grain of salt, and I just hope you were able to learn something from this, and thanks for watching. Happy trading.